Hi, this is Rob. I'm going to share some tips on how to photograph runners with the Sony A6000 and Sony A5100 compact mirrorless cameras. First, let's talk about the settings. I'm using a Sony A6000 with a 20mm pancake lens. This is the only lens I have for this camera. I like to use aperture priority set at f5.6 and adjust the ISO until my time is 1/800th of a second or faster. I like to use ISO 100 or 200 to reduce noise in my photo. For the drive mode, I use continuous shooting. With continuous shooting, you have three options: high, medium, and low. High shoots at a rate of 11 frames per second. Medium shoots at a rate of 6 frames per second. And low shoots at a rate of 2.5 frames per second. I like using high, continuous shooting drive mode. Focus area. I like using flexible spot. With flexible spot, you have three options: large, medium, and small. I like using a large flexible spot. A small flexible spot is good for macro photography. Now the focus mode. This is where I differ with the rest of the world. The rest of the world recommends that you use continuous autofocus for photographing runners. But I use automatic autofocus. Why? Because I like to use flexible spot as my focus area so I can put that focus spot on the runner's face, and I like to hear that focus beep when I lock focus. But when you use continuous autofocus with flexible spot, you don't get that focus beep when you press the shutter button halfway down. So the focus mode I use is automatic autofocus. Automatic autofocus will detect whether the subject is moving or not. If it detects that the subject is moving, then it uses continuous autofocus and continues to focus when the shutter button is pressed. If it detects that the subject is not moving, then it uses single shot autofocus and locks the focus when the shutter button is pressed halfway. Another focus option is to use those dancing squares. To get those dancing squares, you need to set two things. The focus mode needs to be set to continuous autofocus, and the focus area needs to be set to wide. You can also get those dancing squares using zone focus area. The problem with the dancing squares with runners is that I'm not sure which runner those dancing squares will focus on. It may grab the lead runner, and that person may not be the one I want to focus on. So, I use the flexible spot focus area with the focus mode of automatic autofocus so I can hear that confirmation focus lock beep. Here are some of my running photos that I've taken with the Sony A6000 camera. This photo here was cropped down to isolate this runner. Here's the uncropped image. The nice thing with the Sony A6000, it shoots a resolution of 24 megapixels. Thus, you can crop down and still get a decent photo for printing. Okay, that's it. That's the settings I use for running photography with the Sony A6000 camera. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel.